Hi, my name is Sieun. I'm a 10th grade coming to Seisun International School, and we'll be talking about confidence and how it affects our actions. Ever since I can remember, I always liked to read. From myth to fantasy to nonfiction, books were like an alternate reality, worlds next to our own built of ink and words. And I always liked the thrill of deciphering little hints and subtle clues that hinted at what was to come later on in the story, even when I couldn't really guess it and had to weave my way back through the pages once again just to catch all these clues over again. In books, that is a literary technique that you probably learned in 5th grade. But in real life, it is called a premonition or a gut feeling. When I first heard, or rather saw, the poster with the theme for this year, which is limitless thinking, I could immediately give you one example of a not limitless thinking, which was my own mindset. There was no real special reason why I thought this, except for I had absolutely no idea at all when I was thinking about it. It was like walking around and suddenly coming to an invisible wall, which I had not seen coming, obviously. I want everyone in this room right now to maybe consider it, look into what you would speak about if you were a speaker standing right here on stage talking about limitless thinking. What would you talk about? There might be a lot of questions going in through your brain right now, like what is limitless thinking? What are limitless possibilities? And what does it truly mean to go beyond boundaries and societal expectations? At least those were some questions that were going through my mind while I was brainstorming and trying to think of ideas to talk about. Obviously, seeing that I'm here right now today on the stage means that I thought about something to talk about, but there wasn't really any profit from that, all of those brainstorming and idea making. The actual solution for my problem of trying to think of something to speak about didn't come from all of those thinking, but instead in a unexpected but rather simple solution. It came one day when my mom gave me some pictures about from when I was smaller, when I was a kid, and in those pictures I was naturally smiling and laughing at the camera. You see, I've always considered myself to be someone who inherently hated taking photographs. In fact, I've considered yearbook photos taking days as the worst day of the school year possible, even more so than the first day of school. And then I looked at those photos and I realized that I didn't really inherently hate pictures because no one can inherently hate pictures. I just hated how people would look at me or how it felt like everyone was judging me while I was in those pictures. The problem wasn't my hatred for photography, it was my self-consciousness. And those photo albums made me come to one question which became the basis for my speech today. And that question is, aren't limits and boundaries just social constructs that we make for ourselves? What I'm trying to say is this. I believe that limits or boundaries are just something that we make for ourselves, something that is based on our own perception of ourselves. We all have a sense of self. And that sense of self often changes what we think is our reality. Self-confidence is often considered to be the foundation of our personal and professional lives. It's what gives us the courage to chase our dreams, go get our dream job, or stand up to what we believe in, speak about what we believe in, and wake up every morning to get on with another day where there are gonna be new limits and obstacles in the way. But as important as self-confidence is, it is also a very fragile and elusive thing. We all have days when we think that we are not worth it. We all have days when we feel insecure or unsure. And those days of and moments of insecurity often leads us to trap ourselves into a restrictive cycle of wasted potential. How many nights have you spent on your bed just staring at your bedroom ceiling thinking, what if only I had taken that chance and believed in myself? I, for one, have countless of nights where I spent thinking of those times. From when I was in kindergarten, where I tried to reject animations and cartoons because I thought they were too childish, although I was like this tall. Or when I became a bit older in elementary school, when I tried to reject pretty dresses or more feminine clothing because I thought that people would look at me and think that I wasn't feminine enough to wear them. To a bit much older when I couldn't go outside to properly hang out with my friends or eat dinner with my family because I just didn't like people staring at me. I had a long time spent and wasted over drowning myself into a pool of self-doubt and self-worthlessness, talking myself into believing that it just wasn't worth trying something out. Until I came to the realization that that was all a waste of time and my potential. You waste or you miss 100% of the shots you don't take is a popular quote that I am sure that a lot of you in this room probably know about. I've always considered it to be one of those overly emotional, or one might even say cringy quotes that you would normally find on a Tumblr post or maybe written by a Facebook user who was going through midlife crisis. And then I came to realize that I could realize it, so what does that mean me? But then with having low self-confidence, you keep on coming back to that quote, keep on thinking about, oh, what if I had taken that chance? What if this is real and I'm just losing what could have been? What could I have been? And those moments have been a real difficult problem for me. Like looking back into the past and just mulling over who I could have been. But today I don't want to focus on that because that is not what's important. What is important today is not those what could have been or what if and those possibilities. It is why I didn't go with those possibilities. It is why I didn't go out with my family or friends. It is why I didn't wear those pretty dresses. It's even why I didn't look at those childish animations. What is important is low self-esteem, the problem for today. Low self-esteem is a prevalent problem that plagues millions of people worldwide. In fact, according to doctors and researchers like Dr. Joe Rubino, low self-esteem is a modern epidemic that affects around 85% of the world, which that's kind of depressing if you think about it. There's 85% of people in the world who suffers from this low self-esteem, who can't stand up for what we believe in, who kind of get hindered and delayed when we want to make choices. And there's only 15% of us who actually go on with what we want to do and go on to live the fullest life that we can. You see, although we don't really give much credit to it, self-confidence is very important in building our own identity, our own sense of who we are and what we do. It is what helps us builds our interpersonal relationships. It is what helps us may build our opinions. It's what affects our opinions, our thoughts, our actions, how we perceive the world, and how we respond to the world that we perceive, how we impact the world and how the world impacts us. For example, self-confidence is super important in limitless thinking. It is what makes us think about when we are trying to take opportunities. If we have a high sense of self-confidence, we tend to take those opportunities and make the best out of it. We tend to wake up and get up for another day and be ready for overcoming challenges. On the other hand, if we have low self-esteem or confidence, we lose that opportunity. We lose the opportunities that could have been the best in our lives by just shying away from it because we think that we won't be able to do it or that we will fail. That is how important low self-confidence or self-confidence in general is for our own mindsets and limitless thinking. But the matter of fact is, though self-confidence is important, it isn't a fixed item. It is something that can continue to develop. And confidence is not something that others prescribe to you or what others think of you, but it is more on what you think of yourself. And what I'm trying to say here is that when we are trying to do something or when we are halting on making choices, that is not made by what the other people think of us or what the other people think our ability is or the actual ability of how we can achieve something. It's more on our belief in ourselves and our capacity. So what I want you to do tonight or any other night when you feel like you want to go over some regrets of what could have been, I want you not to waste your time just thinking about those regrets. I want you to think that you believe in yourself, because no one will believe in yourself until you believe in your own self. I began the speech today by talking about foreshadowing and gut feeling. The truth is, though I said they were very similar, they can also be very different. While one, which is foreshadowing, is a literary technique which is deliberate and caused by the author, an intuition is more of a natural thing, a phenomenon that we can't really explain. But what if we could? I already established today that what our future is what we make for ourselves. Then what if the premonition, those feelings that we have, and what we act on it, if I tell you that that is also what we choose for ourselves? Today, during our break, we had a small moment when we tried to write about what we couldn't do last year that you can do now. Well, for one answer from me, I couldn't think of standing in front of you all talking in a very public way about all of these personal problems and personal stories. But I am now. I couldn't take photographs, and yearbook days were my worst nightmares, but I have pictures all around the room of me. That little kid who didn't like to take photos, have photos all around, that little kid who couldn't speak in front of everyone can now speak in front of you in a very, very public matter. And so can you. What I want to say is to believe in yourself, and then your future can be limitless. Thank you.